Swope.
I have a special treat for all of my thought snobs out there because I'm sitting here with Jamie D, and this lady has a very rare skill set. Jamie is a holistic and bioenergetic healing practitioner and founder of Human Soundcheck, which is her holistic health practice. She is a certified Bio-Energetic Synchronization Technique practitioner, energy codes life coach, Pranic Healer, master herbalist, and Nutritional Health Counselor. Jamie also holds a B.A. of Arts and Music. She is dedicated to health and promoting healing from within. Jamie, welcome to the Thought Snob podcast.
Thank you, Paula. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I have to kick off our discussion by saying what I've experienced since I started working with you, and I think I've had 5 sessions. I think my first one was the first week of December, and today is March the 8th? Yeah. And then I had my 5th one this past Monday. So here's what I've experienced. Best sleep ever. I've lost 5 pounds without really trying. I feel more grounded, creative, intuitive, and I have a tendency to be a bit uptight. And I can get really anal about things, and those are qualities about myself that I don't particularly like, but I try to turn those weaknesses into strengths, you know?
Yeah.
And so after my second or third session with you, I felt that uptightness start to release, and I've just felt more easygoing lately than I have been in a while. And so I've experienced all these benefits, and I still don't understand how the B.E.S.T technique works. And for our listeners, I want to let them know that B.E.S.T is an acronym that stands for Bio-Energetic Synchronization Technique. So I would love for you to explain how B.E.S.T works, because I guarantee our listeners are absolutely as clueless as me, because it's not like people like you are on every corner.
No, we're not. Hopefully that will change in the future, because everybody needs some B.E.S.T in their life. So I'm so glad that you are experiencing and noticing these changes in yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's something I hear a lot, especially with handling life, like in all the things, and just kind of walking through and letting life kind of unfold before you, mm-hmm. instead of trying to control everything. I hear that a lot. Mm-hmm. So that's great. And with sleep and all those kinds of things. Really B.E.S.T, I'll just kind of give the highlights of what it actually is. It's a gentle healing system used to address the stress and promote healing in all the systems of the body. So, I mean, hormonal and circulatory, our nervous system, and digestive, and any and above, any and all of above. So, when a system moves out of balance, then things start to crop up and pop up. And it can be anything from emotional or digestive problems, or just not being able to get a hold on our emotions. And then things just start kind of barreling out of control. So, and then we're kind of on this override. So the people at B.E.S.T, we kind of were taught to use the analogy of a smartphone. And if you have too many apps open, and it's kind of like, the system is just under constant stress. And if you go in there, and, sometimes if you don't go in there and your operating system is just kind of stressed, it's going to stress other systems, and then your phone might crash or then turn off, and then you're kind of like, up the creek for a minute.
That's a great way to explain it.
Yeah, it is. It is. It makes total sense. Mm-hmm. So our body systems work like that, of course. And so when they're stressed and overtaxed and unbalanced, they can cause other things to work harder and make up for the deficiency that's being caused. So that can look like, muscle and joint pain, digestive issues, sleep problems, emotional stress, and kind of things I've already covered. Mm-hmm. So B.E.S.T works to maximize the healing potential of your body's natural system or systemic intelligence. So, mm-hmm. and Dr. Mortar, and Dr. M.T. Mortar Jr., the guy who developed B.E.S.T back in the 70s, his whole, one of his tenets was we our body created us. Like, we came from a single cell, and like energy is what produced us to become babies, and then we're trillions of cells now, right? Our body innately, it has innate intelligence. It knows how to repair. It knows how to get into balance as long as we allow it the tools and kind of show it the way to do that. So what the heck is synchronization, and what the heck is bioenergetic? And okay, so bioenergetic is kind of like working with the energy field, right? So we're tapping in not just to the energy field, but also the subconscious. And when we tap into that, we let the conscious mind kind of take a break, because it's the one that wants to run the show. But really, that's not what's happening in our lives and in our bodies. Our conscious mind is totally not running the show as far as what's going on chemically in our bodies, unless our thoughts make that happen. And then that's a whole different kind of toxicity that's going on there. So, yeah, we work with the lobes of the brain. We work with, and I'll get to why, and we work with the cranial nerves. We're working with the breath, and the breath is specific to the nervous system, and bringing that kind of connection with the conscious mind through the nervous system to like operate for our current needs. Because what's going on with many of us is there some kind of emotions or experiences from the past, and usually an emotion attached to those experiences from the past, that our nervous system or our subconscious is holding on to in a specific way to keep us safe. Because if we go beyond that, or if we go below that, we might get into that same kind of predicament again. So we're being held in that state of kind of duress, if you will. And that's from some past experience. And our conscious mind is like, why do I act like this? Why can't I just whatever? Why can't I get beyond this? Why am I always triggered in this way? And we don't understand that, because the conscious mind and the subconscious are not communicating. So with that synchronization part of the technique is I'm on certain contact points on the head, working with the lobes of the brain. And when I feel that pulsing come on when we're in that session, or that specific round in a session, that synchronization, that communication has happened again. And we use the 5 keys with the breath work and the eye position and the word, of course, the emotion for the face up one to get there, to help us get there.
When I'm on the table, I don't feel like anything is happening. It's like, but the breath work, I'm very calm when I'm on the table, and I'm going through the motions of doing the breath work and doing my eyes the way you tell me to, and it can get a little uncomfortable at times. But when you say, oh, there it is, and it's like it's synced up, I don't really feel anything. And so just for anyone who's curious about trying this technique, which I highly recommend, I don't feel like I get the benefits during the session. It's kind of like meditation. You don't get your benefits during meditation. You get them when you're out and about in activity.
Right.
And it's those little subtle changes that you notice about yourself, and you go, aha.
Yep, it's a system update. So when you're working on your computer, your computer might go or whatever, make a noise, or it may not do anything. But then you notice that your computer runs more efficiently after you've done something or cleaned up any software glitches or something like that. So that's what we're doing. We're just kind of updating that software. And listen, I mean, when we're talking about bioenergetics, this is subtle energy. This is so subtle, it's barely there. Like, I am hardly touching you. And I do another practice called Jin Shin Jitsu. And when I'm on that, I'm like putting gentle pressure on people. And some people who come to me for both, they're like, well, I'm not feeling you. I'm like, this is different. Different pressure. Different. As I'm holding on and just waiting for that subtle energy to come on through. It's very, very gentle.
Yeah, the whole thing is absolutely fascinating. And everyone that I invite to come on to my podcast shares a commonality. And that commonality is, at one point or another, my guest stopped conforming and started using their unique gifts to serve themselves and others. And none of us are practicing traditional pathways to success, as defined by society. I mean, you and I are
No.
way out of the box. And so our lives don't look like most of the populations. And that's the quality that I look for when I identify guests to be on the show. And you absolutely fit this description. And so I have to ask this question. What brought you to this stage in your life? Because most people, I know there are exceptions to the rule, don't start out on a spiritual path. They get on a spiritual path because nothing else has worked for them. And that was the case with me. I mean, I was in my late 20s and my life was a complete shit show. And I thought, my way's not working. I'm going to check out this Wayne Dyer cat because he seems to know what the hell he's talking about. So I'm going to check him out. And sure enough, I changed my whole life. And so anyone I talk to, it's not like I've been on a spiritual path since I was a child. It's not like your parents are like, just use the law of attraction and the spiritual laws to get what you want. It's just not how it went in my world or anybody that I know. And so I would just love to know if everything I just said resonates with you. And if it does, what was your catalyst for change?
Yeah, everything totally does resonate. I guess throughout my whole life, I was just, maybe misunderstood is a way to put it by, the people at school, not necessarily my teachers so much, but yeah, and my home life was a little bit different. So I wasn't exactly understood. And I had not a great school experience as a result of that. And I wasn't a bad kid by any means, but yeah, I just kind of saw things differently. I saw life differently. So, I kind of dabbled. I've always been into crystals. I've always been into, the new age kind of stuff, I guess you could say, but I wasn't like living it. And then, I got into adulthood, again, into my early 20s, going to school, going to college. I was just like going to college to go to college.
Right.
And I mean, I enjoyed, what I eventually found to music and doing that. But I had this mindset where I just had to work, and I didn't really embrace that experience very well. But I did get through it. But no, into adulthood, into my later adulthood, probably about 40 years old now. It was like where the penny dropped, and I'm like, life. What the hell is going on with this life? First of all, and whoa, I just got dealt a blow. My family got dealt a big blow. Mm-hmm. So my brother Michael, who I was very close to growing up. So I'm one of 4 siblings. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Michael is the one closest to me in age. I am a surprise baby. So my parents, they thought they were done with 3 kids, and then almost 10 years later, here I show up. So I was almost like an only child, and Michael to me was like the cool kid, and I looked up to him a lot. Plus my 2 older siblings, by the time I was 3 years old, they didn't even live with us. So, and we were different states. Mm-hmm. So that was Michael was a large part of my life. And then we had a not great, home life. And so it made us even closer. And so he was a very special person to me. But then he ended up going through addiction, and I saw him turn into a person I didn't know. Mm. And then, then he got through that over the years, and then, we became close again. And so here we are all these years later, many iterations of ourselves. And I'm living in Kentucky, and he's in Ohio. And so we're adults, and we don't talk all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So my father was passing, and my mother, who this is a whole different conversation, but my mom and my sister and my brother were going to take a trip and at the same time and visit he and his wife, my dad and his wife, while to say goodbye, or before he really did pass. Mm-hmm. So we met up in Florida. I flew separately, and they came from Ohio. And, first hour, 2 hours, everything was like, normal, totally like old times. And then like the next morning, like I didn't even know who this person was. Like, who the hell is this guy? He was drinking a lot. He was on a lot of pharmaceuticals, like prescriptions that none of us knew. He and his wife knew, but we didn't. And that whole trip was an absolute disaster. Someone I couldn't even recognize, and neither could the rest of the family. So we learned that he was on some anxiety or antidepressant medicine. He was going through a custody battle with his ex at the time, and I don't know, it just got out of control, and he started drinking and using and not missing any of his prescription dosages, and he was on an SSRI. And now that I know what I know now, things are starting to add up. So then fast forward it to when my dad finally did die a few months later. Again, like we saw him, and he was worse than even the first time. And so I kind of estranged myself from him because I just couldn't deal with that. And none of us knew, like we weren't reached out to understand that he was going through that, or what to expect, or that we could have helped if we had known that there was like this level of something going on with him. So anyway, that was in August, and then in December, I'll never forget, I was in a rehearsal, and I come out, my phone has been blown up by my family, and I'm like, huh. And yeah, sure enough, he hung himself.
Oh, boy.
And the strangest part of this whole thing is he was cut down and did not end up dying, but he's got a traumatic brain injury so bad that he just doesn't even know it really is. He knows his name. He at this point doesn't really recognize anybody, and he lives in a state like run facility, and he's living out the rest of his days in a very sad state. And so we had a lot of hope in those early days because he was alive. Mm-hmm. And he actually went home for hospice. And then we thought, that's it. Finally, we did finally come to this state where we were going to, have him come off life support. He ended up remaining alive. And then he went home with hospice. His wife was a nurse, and so she was able to handle that. And then he didn't pass at home, and then he woke up one day and signed in sign language, "help." And so then we got really excited, thinking, oh my gosh, there's something that's going to come out of this. He's going to snap. He's going to maybe turn around. And no, he a lot of time in the Cleveland Clinic, a lot of a couple of rehab centers. Our medical model is kind of not great when it comes to how much time people get for these types of rehabilitation. So someone with the TBI, it's tough. Good luck. Good luck with that. So it made me do some real soul searching there, and some real clear thinking, and some it wasn't like, oh, I'm a victim of the situation. It was more like, because I was kind of beyond, I was start doing self-help kind of stuff anyway. I wasn't completely, in the dark as far as, trying to accept things that happen in your life. But at the same time, I was like, okay, if I can help how can I help people more than I already am? I can't just sit here and support my mom. She's broken, what do you do? What do you do? And how can I overcome this and see it differently, this situation in my life? Estrangement that is not the first time I'd been down the road with estrangement. So obviously that got me thinking, and about purpose and what I'm here to learn. And then that's kind of who my catalyst was.
Wow.
And that situation was my catalyst.
I get cold chills a lot when I'm doing this podcast, and as you were talking about that, it's just cold chills from head to toe. That's very, very jolting, and I can totally see how something like that can open the door to get you to thinking about life and your purpose and what you're really here for. But unlike a lot of people I know, it sounds to me like you channeled it and took it to a good place.
Yeah, I mean, and at the same time, like, yeah, and this is how I feel like I can help others too, because I mean, I've been through tremendous pain. Like, that kind of a situation is, yeah, we all have family dynamics, right?
Oh yeah, but that's unbearable.
Yeah, and the fact, I did have to like really look at myself and forgive myself in a way, because having been estranged, in fact, I had a dream the night before. I had the most beautiful dream about him, and we were just in a car together. It was so weird because he was driving and I was in the passenger seat, and we didn't say a word, and the sun was so bright, just shining in on us, and I remember just looking over at him, and he was just so perfect and beautiful. And I was like, that moment never like left me. And so I woke up that morning and I'm like, oh, I wish I could call him and tell him about this dream. But I know I will dial the phone and it'll be gobbledygook on the other end. Like, he was just out of his head. So I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't call him because I was, I just knew that, or, I anticipated that, and it wouldn't have been heard. But however, I think that it was heard in advance. So yeah. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah. Wow. So when this happened, did that lead you to Dr. Sue Morter?
Oh my gosh. Well, it definitely led me to what led me to Dr. Sue Morter.
Yeah.
It led me to a lot of different things. A lot of online training, a lot of books, and book after book after book after book after book.
Oh, yeah.
And more books after that, and since. And then, some Shift Network stuff. It's kind of like Gaia. I don't do Gaia, but, and then some of the Hay House things, James Van Praagh, and getting into, just the whole expanse of our purpose and our awakening here. And then I think it must have been a Shift Network thing that I saw Dr. Sue on. And that would have been, I don't know, probably early 2020, because that's when the Energy Codes book came out. Mm-hmm. And then there we went. Energy Codes book came out, and I'm like, this is it. This is literally the code I want to live by. Mm-hmm. This is speaking to me on every single level. And then I just dove right in, and I haven't looked back since. She is an amazing teacher. She has so much to give. She is like an endless vessel of wisdom and compassion, and I couldn't be happier to have stumbled into her path.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the true definition of big dharma, really, because the work that, your catalyst for change was this catastrophic, traumatizing event, but that led you to do something that not only helped you to heal and release all of that trauma, but then you're able to help all of these other people.
Yep. Yeah. As a result of being just so clear.
Sure.
And knowing that, and here's something that'll come right out of her teaching and into the coaching is, everything that's happening here in our life, if we are awakened to it and allow ourselves to truly embrace, it's all unfolding for our own eventual benefit. Mm-hmm. And if we can see not just a silver lining in situations, but see some kind of personal growth, or see the way we would have otherwise handled something, but we don't now because we're different, mm-hmm. and then grow even more from that. That's right. That's it. We're not suffering. That's it.
That's it. Because it is the thoughts that we have about these experiences that really cause us to suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
It's like, and with you, with Dr. Sue Morter, well, I have had those experiences and those epiphanies with Deepak Chopra, who's my
Yeah.
professor,
Oh, yeah.
and Wayne Dyer, and you mentioned Hay House. I mean,
Yeah.
Louise Hay, you can heal your life, and all these people made me see that all of us have free will, and in every single moment, we can choose to use that free will to create a better reality, or we can choose to kind of wallow in, victim mode.
Yep.
And that story you just told is brilliant and beautiful because it exhibits that to a T. I mean, you are somebody that took a situation that would have broken most people.
Yeah, it was.
And you turned it in. And you turned it into something wonderful. And that's the whole reason that I do everything that I do, is because I want to increase that awareness in people that, you got more control over your life than what you think you do. You're in the driver's seat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we take for granted the story that we let our mind let us live.
Right.
And if we would just get out of that and see and just allow a little bit, just, it doesn't have to happen overnight. Please, everybody listening, it doesn't happen overnight. This is something it takes work, but you have to open your mind to this understanding that, and we all have had this question, what am I doing here? What does this life even mean? Why am I here? What is there for me? And if you want to know, then you have to open your mind to the fact that you're going to have to do some searching, and you're going to have to maybe open your mind up to something that it doesn't really fit in the square peg hole, concepts of actual spirituality and who we are. I mean, literally scientifically and bioenergetically, who and what are we? And once you start there with even Deepak Chopra or Wayne Dyer or Dr. Sue or all the countless others, there's lots and lots of great stuff out there to help us even baby step our way to this bigger understanding of the big picture.
And they're all the spiritual gurus. It all boils down to one thing, and it's us really truly just claiming our power.
Yeah, and working with our higher self. And if the mind if we just are so closed to the fact that we're just going to let our mind handle everything for us, instead of allowing that the true support of our creator and our whole our soul to come in here and help us do the work, it's a lot easier that way. If we just dip a toe and open up to our own awakening and our enlightenment, if you will, that's just start there.
Oh yeah. And what I didn't realize when I started my spiritual journey, and I had to learn this, and I was a tough case. I was pretty hard-headed because I had to basically unlearn 3 decades, pretty much, of these beliefs that I had adopted, and I didn't understand how the subconscious worked and the conscious worked and the unconscious worked, and I didn't realize that my subconscious beliefs were actually controlling a vast majority of my behaviors, a little over 90% or something like that. I think the science says, and that's where my trademark thought snob method came from. It came from all those experiences that I had during my upbringing. And it's so simple. I mean, SNOB stands for see new objective beliefs, because, people like me were socialized to believe the subjective opinions of others. And that's just my real nice way of saying, just flat out lies. And that never served me well, and it caused me to conform, and I allowed my, subconscious to run the show, and I just flat out did not realize what was happening because I wasn't educated about how the subconscious, worked. And so what would you say your most disempowering subconscious belief was? And when did it occur to you that it interfered with your highest good?
Oh, my number one most disempowering subconscious belief is that I didn't fit into the club, whatever club that is. So, early on, it was, being accepted by my peers in, elementary school, and then, career-wise, like literally, the company that we developed was an entertainment company, and then, I'm a female, but that really shouldn't matter. But, if you're competing for, say, early on, we did like weddings, like DJs and stuff like that, it's not the norm. And so, and then I sold audio equipment, I sold wine. I've had all these sales jobs, and I was in the wine club. I was pretty well accepted there, and I loved that job a lot. But no, like then later on, most recently, before all my new stuff, before I really embraced healing arts and really walked forward there, was in the music industry, and I was just not in alignment at all with what I was doing. And so, yeah, energetically, what does that tell you? Oh, I woke up. I'm just creating more and more of like negative experiences in this job because it is a role that does not fulfill me. And I was around, just people that didn't fulfill me, and it was just it just constantly compiled on itself, because when you're in that state, it's like attracts like, and attracts more like. And I just constantly felt like I wasn't good enough at what I was doing, and not accepted by those people I was doing it for, or potentially doing it for. And no matter how hard I worked, and I worked hard, and I was driven to achieve, and it was maybe just in the wrong area of life, or wrong career choice. But so, and then coming into the healing world, after going through Dr. Sue's work, I'm like, you know what? I don't care if I'm accepted among the people around here who do this, because I am fine with what I'm doing. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on, and whatever club that exists around here doesn't matter, because I know my path, and I'm walking it, and I love it, and it feels so good. I don't care anymore.
There you go. Most people tell me, and you said your number one thing was, didn't fit in, and that ties to caring about what other people think.
Yeah.
And that's like an overarching thing that I hear so many people say. My colleagues at the Chopra Center, my coaching clients, my friends, family members, it was like, I really care, about what people think about me. And I think that when we can get to the point that we don't care, that is like true freedom.
Oh yeah.
And when
liberating.
Oh my God. And I'm not there yet. I mean, I'm working on it, but I mean, I'm not there yet. I mean, I do care about what certain people think about me. But now, where I made a huge transition there in my spiritual growth, is I don't care what people think about me that don't know me.
Yeah, exactly.
But the people that do know me, I do care about what they think.
Well, of course, they're your loved ones, they're your friends.
Right.
Yeah, of course. And you want to bounce ideas off of each other, and you want to have a trusting, loving relationship where you can have those conversations and be honest and open.
Right.
But, where we allow the external forces and the people, in general population, if you will, have their opinions of us and hold that in a high regard, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, because we know our true value, we know ourselves, and if we walk in that truth, the truth of us, who are we harming? Like, sorry if that's their problem, but that's their current belief system has them, feeling whatever way that they want to feel towards us or about us. So that's kind of where I am in life now. I try to help people deal with that themselves, because a lot of society we allow sometimes society to have the upper hand in our well-being and our emotional wellness.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, my upbringing, I was told who I was, and I was told how I was supposed to think. And if I didn't think that way and I didn't behave that way, then I would be, severely punished by this white man in the sky who is probably a Republican too. Definitely white. This man was in control of me, and I had to do exactly what he laid out for me to do, or otherwise, I was basically screwed. And so the whole society thing, I was kind of raised to live in fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is such a waste of time.
I know. And
it's such a waste of time.
An external force causing, that we don't know even really is, like, it was taught to us that man had evil intentions or ill intentions for us. Like, how on earth, like that?
There's nothing fearful when you truly get to know God.
No, not at all.
There's nothing
not a single thing
fearful, and we're a part of that. And it so all ties in with those subconscious beliefs, and that's why I love having these conversations, and that's why I'm so impressed by the work that you do, because not everybody can reverse those beliefs on their own. And so, you've got a technique where you can just, relax and be calm and help people to just level up energetically.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It's releasing the interference that's there. And how I've explained interference to you, but when we have this interference with these emotions, usually it's emotional interference. And I work with the chart, and, there's 144 emotions that Dr. Mortar, who happens to be Dr. Sue Mortar's dad, and her two brothers also have her two brothers have B.E.S.T or Mortar Health System. Sorry, that was Dad's original company, I think. So the whole family is all about B.E.S.T and Bio-Energetic Synchronization Technique. But the removal of the subconscious interference with these emotions, we don't even have to know it's a conscious thing. That and that's the whole point. We don't necessarily have to even attach it to something our conscious mind wants to attach it to. We just say, hey, this is the emotion we're clearing interference for. Meaning, if it's a negative emotion, we want to obviously clear that out and release any energetic attachment to these negative emotions. And then if it's a positive one, like joyful, well, we want to bring more of that in, because something is keeping us from, a level 10 experience of being joyful. And we want level 10 joyful. Otherwise, we're stuck at only a level 2, and we don't know why. And so we can never be joyful about stuff to the level that we want.
That's right. That's right. And since I've been working with you, I've also noticed since you mentioned joy, and you also know that I recently found out that I'm perimenopausal. And so with that comes this certain blasé feeling.
Yeah.
And it's like you have some trouble getting excited about things, like everything. I don't think I've ever been depressed, and it wasn't to that level with me, but everything was going great, but I still had this, this blah feeling. I just couldn't really get excited about a whole lot. Now, since I've been working with you, I just feel lighter. It's like, and one day I was in the bathroom, and this was, a month or so ago, and I thought, I'm kind of feeling like myself again,
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Right? And it's like you're not just weighed down in something, and you just don't understand why you've got the ickies, but you've got the ickies. Do you hear that a lot?
I do. I absolutely can tell you that practically everyone who experiences some kind of I've just been down. I've been down lately. I can't quite pinpoint why. Uplifted. That is one of the things I hear the most, is being able to just enjoy life more and be happy, and they just feel lighter. In general, just weight has been lifted. We're carrying around this baggage we don't even know we have, and it's like that is low vibration energy, and it weighs more than high frequency energy. So when we get rid of the low vibration stuff, and it is like we just lost weight of burdensome, emotional, whatever, icky, stuff that we don't know we have.
So on that note right there, I want to jump to this question that I've got for you. So in order for me to level up energetically, I had to say no to anything that did not serve me.
Yep.
And it took me a bit to get the memo on that. And so
same here. I hear you on that.
yeah, and I'll tell you why, because I want people to know this. It was difficult for me because many of my bad habits had created my identity. And letting go of like gossip and the 5,762 toxic people that I was around, right? And then the binge drinking, like our happy hour was more like self-destruction hour, starts at like 4 and ends indefinitely, okay? Usually me bawling and crying and spilling my guts to everybody. I mean, that was ridiculous. And so it was just self-destruction in general. But letting go of all of that really kind of felt like losing an old friend. And it was the best thing I ever did for myself, but it was hard. And but strange things, start to happen when we decide to level up and create that feel-good energy. And to sustain it, we really do have to stay the course. And I mean, clearly from this conversation, I know that this is something that you can relate to. And so what was one of the first things you did to clean out like stagnant energy that may have been holding you back from your true purpose? Because you refer to it on your website as stuckness, just being stuck.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to explain it. It's like swimming in quicksand.
Yeah, that might be a Dr. Seuism too. So, I was already kind of on the path, with nutrition and a healthy lifestyle, but the toxic people were like, that was the number one thing that just had to go.
Me too.
The fact that I was trying to, in the career, in the company that, we had, I was really serving others, which is something I love to do. A teacher of sort, which is something that I love to do. That's something that I've, even in sales, you're a teacher. Okay,
right.
You're educating people about products or services or whatever. And the people that I ended up being surrounded by on a regular basis the most often were they were just not serving me at all whatsoever, and I was trying my best to serve them, and it was met with a lot of unnecessary resistance, and it caused me a lot of issues, and self-esteem issues, but like health issues. I remember distinctly one day I went to the dentist. I was in the waiting room. I got this crazy text, and it kind of came out from like left field. It just threw me right into a like fight or flight state, and I'm just freaking out, and I'm answering this text back, and I'm just I could feel my heart in my chest, and I'm like losing it. Go into the treatment room, and they take my blood pressure, and they're like, "We can't work on you. Your blood pressure is too high." And I'm thinking, you know what? This is not good for my health. And this is just one interaction with someone. So, I just, that was it. That was when it started, getting, nice boundaries, putting boundaries in line. I'm not being rude or disrespectful in any way, but being respectful to myself and to my health and to my integrity. And once I started doing that and just communicating with people who were uplifting and seeking out more meaningful relationships, I'm I'm a little bit selective because I've always been kind of a loner, and it's just kind of trying to break out of that shell, but that is really the truth about me. So once I removed myself from the feeling of being, in a disrespectful kind of position, and clearly, it wasn't an illusion, it was actual fact. Once I got out of that and removed myself and put boundaries down, that's my number one, and that really started my own personal healing to really accelerate.
It's funny that you bring up the health issues, because when I was around toxic people, I was sick, and the household that I grew up in was toxic, and I hate, I really don't want to just totally beat up on my parents because they didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't know. I mean,
Get it?
products of their socialization, they were carrying on that good old family tradition.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
understand. And so it was a toxic household, which was basically kind of like the cultural landscape, really, of rural Kentucky, because it's rooted in a poverty mindset, and there's like this expectation of defeat, and so you're always expecting like the next bad thing to happen, and that causes you to be in fight or flight, and that sympathetic nervous system is just like it's just on all the time. And so I grew up like that, and I had from as far back as I can remember, I had these crazy head colds. It was constant. That went on from the time I was 4 or 5 years old until I was in my early 30s.
Wow.
I'm not joking. I don't get sick anymore.
Yeah.
It's rare if I do. Now, during this time, my blood pressure, when I was 22 years old, was 150 over 110. I weighed 204 pounds. I had numerous injuries, 3 broken bones, slow healing. It took me forever to bounce back. And I just thought, why in the world am I like this? Nobody else is like this. And then after all of those years of being around those toxic people, and toxic people will absolutely make sure that you do not get what you want, and you will constantly do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
You will people please.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I developed this rare bladder condition called interstitial cystitis. It's commonly referred to as IC.
Yep.
And I started researching it and figured out it's linked to women who have endured abuse for extended periods. And so as the years have gone by, I was told, well, there's no cure for this. The medical people, they don't really totally understand it. The insurance companies think it's not real, so it doesn't cover your medication. And so I was just absolutely in the mindset of, I'm not going to let this debilitate me. I'm just not. And so I'm asymptomatic right now.
Great.
I started doing Primordial Sound Meditation last year, and that's a meditation that releases inflammation from the body. And I have not had any issues with IC since I started doing Primordial Sound Meditation.
That.
Yeah, outside of a couple of little bitty tiny, twinges of it. And it's usually from, eating something highly acidic.
Yeah.
I used to not be able to eat anything acidic. So I just had to speak on that because, oh my goodness, the toxic people will absolutely take you down.
Yeah.
It is dangerous to your health.
Well, it's the thoughts, and it's another thing from B.E.S.T that Dr. Mortar pointed out. Our thoughts can be toxic because of when we have these negative thoughts that keep churning in our energy field, right? Our thoughts are going to create a chemical reaction in the body. So our adrenals, like our hormones, we have more than just sex hormones. We got
Right.
a lot of hormones in the body. So we just kind of excite the systems, so to speak, and then we get the chain reaction of just one thing popping off another, and then another, and another, and then we end up in states of toxicity. And then we have these overrides of hormonal issues. We get there's something that we refer to in B.E.S.T called SEMO, which is subconscious emotional memory override, and that is directly linked to our thoughts being so toxic. And we can actually identify that in saliva pH. And,
Really?
Yeah. Yes. I've seen it so far only in 2 people in my practice, but yeah, that's tough to get rid of some of that emotional stuff, because at that point you're like PTSD almost level. You are so in the zone. It's just like it's hard to even, like, you are just functioning. You are like waking up and just figuring out what each step is as you take the one before behind it. What the next one is. Okay, what's next? And it's like you're holding it together, and that is no fun to live in that condition.
Oh my God, I've never heard of that before. What does it stand for?
Subconscious emotional memory override.
Got it. That is very interesting. So, and okay, just to piggyback on that just a little bit, because you've during this whole conversation, energy keeps popping up. It's all about energy, right?
It is.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so I want to make sure before our time is up that we talk about your work with energy codes, because this is another thing I'm not totally in the know about. And so, but I do know it's heavily tied to manifestation. And so would you talk about energy codes a little bit, and then maybe talk about how that work enhances a person's ability to attract what they want?
Absolutely.
Is that a good way to frame that?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. Okay, so as I mentioned before, Dr. Sue Morter is Dr. M.T. Morter Jr.'s daughter. So she also was a chiropractor, and so the Bio-Energetic Synchronization Technique was born out of chiropractic, and so she taught her dad's work for decades, okay? So she is Bio-Energetic Synchronization Technique. She's got it memorized inside and out. So she wrote a book called The Energy Codes, and she took, she just is the embodiment of B.E.S.T. And so all of that knowledge that she has with what it does for the human systems, and she just kind of put it on steroids and gave it a lot of outlook and spirituality, spiritual aspects. She helps you with breath and fully embodying your whole entire self, all of you, your mind, body, and spirit, bringing it all together through, allowing the mind to actually take a role and using it in order to put your soul and body together. And we use the mind, but in a very covert way, to allow us to do what is referred to in the book a quantum flip. So she's got the model of awakening, that she calls it, right? And so there's a back side of the model and the front side of the model. The front side of the model is, hey, you're here. You are the creator of the life you're living. You are awakened, and you are in flow with life. The back side of the model has two sides. The bottom side of that coin is what you have already discussed, is that absolute victimhood. Life is happening to me, and it's always been like this. My family, we've been destined. This is the way it's always going to be like for me. Or I married too early, and this is just the chips I've been dealt, and I have no way out of this situation. So I'm just gonna have to this is just life, and I'm a victim, and it sucks. But this is all I have to choose from. But then, some people are like, I don't like living like this. I need to do something about it. And so that's what is kind of referred to as the self-help. It's still on the backside of the model, but now you're like, I don't want to feel this way, and there's got to be something that I can do to change it. So then what you do is you go and you try out different methods to help you feel better. You might, do therapy, or which is awesome. That's very, very helpful. But it's and you might do meditation or find some other things that do help you feel better. But you're still at that point. You're like, well, I'm taking the situation that I've been dealt, and I'm going to make it better, and I won't let it get the best of me. And there's a silver lining, because I'll feel better if I do these things to help me feel better, and then I'm going to feel better. And then you identify a problem, you feel better from that problem, but then you're like, oh wait, I got more problems. So then you go to your next problem, because you feel better about this current one. And you're like, well, I'm going to dig in deeper and see what, here's something else wrong with me. Well, then you go and do self-help for that wrong thing. And then you're like, I feel better about this. So now you're just getting good at problem solving and looking for more problems in yourself. And that's dangerous. That's still the backside model. You're just not fully awakened to your true consciousness. So that's where the energy codes is way different from all the other stuff. Gotcha. So once we can go, hold on a minute, there's something larger happening here, and we can open ourselves to allow our, what she refers to as the soulful self, or our spirit, or our soul, or God consciousness, or my higher power, to, that I have a pipeline to. I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to work directly with it, with my body, with my breath, with my, mind, and fully embody that. And when what we do, and when we're doing that work, is we're through the breath, which is raw energy, we are building what we call circuitry. And so we start turning lights on where it's been dark. Maybe the lights never have been turned on. And those might be even areas where we've got pain, we've got inflammation, we've got swelling, we've got, growths. That's like on the physical side of things. It could be something that, you start doing this work and start realizing things about your physical body that, you're discovering, and then things start to unwind. And it really has to do with, along the way, mindset. Mindset is big. If we can get ourselves out of that way of finding problems and trying to fix something that really isn't broken, because we have the healing power really within us, and all we have to do is kind of step into it and just dip the toe at first, and then welcome that that awakening to happen within us. Then that's where the true work of the energy codes comes in. Now, there's lots of other tricks and things that we do. Breath work is important. Yoga postures for those people who like to do yoga, that's important. Other kinds of fun exercises to help us meditate. Some people kind of need help with that, and it's baby steps. It's take it as you are able to digest in small chunks, and then eventually you're like, no, give me the big chunk. I'm done with the small parts.
Right. Because once you get a taste of what it feels like to be lighter, and you're not focusing on what's wrong with you anymore, which never does anybody any good,
Nope.
Then you start to operate with more awareness, and everything really just starts to change. And it's those little subtle changes, and your life just starts to go a little bit easier. But then you're right. Then you're like, okay, I'm ready. Let's let all this go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it's really hard. If you have listeners right now who are going through something challenging in life, so maybe something, like what I went through with my brother, or if you are going through a really horrible health condition or a diagnosis and treatment for that, you might be like, I'm in such a dark place. Like, how can this be in my favor in any way, shape, or form? But let me just tell you, I'm living proof. I've been through my own share of things in life. I shared one big one, but none of us are exempt to things in life that we go through that really could damage us or keep us feeling that we are never going to see a way out of it. But if we can, tweak our thinking just a little bit, and maybe be open to the fact that maybe this is happening somehow for my benefit in the long run, maybe to be a deeper, more compassionate person, maybe to be able to stand in the shoes of someone that you'll meet someday, to be able to be that ear that they need to be, or a source of inspiration. You don't know unless you open yourself up to your own magnificence and your own awakening, that we are so much more than we give ourselves credit for. And if we just walk around in this tunnel vision, we're doing it wrong. That's not why we came here.
Right. And we're not separated.
No. Oh, and Dr. Sue says there's only one of us here.
Yeah, we're not separated.
No.
And
no, we're not.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you said all of that, because no matter what type of upbringing a person has had, they have trauma.
Oh yeah.
Everybody. It's everybody. No, and I know there are certain, there are levels of trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm a person that didn't realize that I had trauma.
No.
I did not realize that.
Nope.
I did not even understand, because nobody talked about that growing up. Nobody talked about mental health. Period.
Right.
And so it was just foreign to me, and I thought I was exempt, from, although I'd endured all of this abuse, for whatever reason, trauma never occurred to me.
Of course, because and you were probably on the backside of the model of awakening. You're just, you don't realize it until you're ready to branch out and take a different viewpoint.
Right. And I had a doctor, Dr. Dave Harmon, in my hometown, and I would still see him to this day if he wasn't 2 hours down the road. But he was wonderful, and I started seeing him in my 20s. And he was not your typical chiropractor. he was an AK doctor. He practiced, applied kinesiology and did the muscle testing, and he was the first person to introduce me to all of that. And he said to me on my second visit, he said, and I was totally asleep, right? I mean, I was not awakened at all. I just was totally unaware of everything. And he said, Paula, you have a lot of trauma.
Wow. And you're like, I what now?
And I said, well, no, I don't. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, my God. Because I just looked at trauma as physical trauma. I didn't look at it as emotional trauma. And so anybody who's listening is going to benefit greatly from that beautiful speech that you just gave. And on that note, we'll end here. Who is a perfect fit for your line of work? Anybody?
Well, I would love to say anybody. Anybody who has their mind open and willing to accept this kind of work. And you did mention kinesiology. Muscle testing is how I get my answers from your subconscious to lead the session. So I am using muscle testing. I'm doing legs to get my yeses and nos, and then we test with the arms as well. But if you are open to this kind of thing, it's allowing your subconscious to say, hey, I'm going to prioritize what we need to get out of the system to heal and move on with whatever it is that you want to move on with in your life. Anxiety, level 10 plus, come and get some B.E.S.T. If your digestion is a mess, come and get B.E.S.T. If you're going through like a big life event, that would help you go through it so much better. Emotional handling, sleep issues, illness or pain that won't resolve. That's a big one. So and just if you just want to get a leg up and just feel, if you feel just your energy is off, and I'm like, I'm not myself, B.E.S.T. is a great thing to have done. Yeah.
So how can people find you?
Oh, well, I have a website called humansoundcheck.com. My business name is Human Soundcheck, and I'm on social media on Facebook and Instagram, and that's also Human Soundcheck, at Human Soundcheck.
So can you carry out these treatments virtually? Probably not. Can you carry out the B.E.S.T. technique virtually?
Yeah, I've been trained in that through Dr. Sue. And I can, what I do in this case is I use my own self, my hands as a proxy for muscle testing. And you still would hold your eyes a certain way and do the breath pattern a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then, if you believe in such things as holograms, any other kind of virtual energy work that is getting done, whether I'm doing pranic healing or people who do Reiki, it's all that kind of same thing. You're tapping into, as long as our connection has been made where we're allowing ourselves to have this energetic connection to get this work done, then the pulsing will come on. It's very, very subtle, but that's what energy is.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll make sure that I post all of your contact information with this episode of this podcast. And this has been absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
My goal for people who listen to the Thought Snob podcast is for them to leave an episode feeling better than they did, whether they get answers or they get tools or any kind of uplifting at all, hope, and I think that we have certainly accomplished that today. And I really, really appreciate you being so open, and you're brilliant. And everybody needs to go see you. So.
Well, thank you, Paula. And if you do want to get a hands-on treatment in town near you, you can just go to Dr. Sue's website, or you can go to Mortar Health System, and they'll probably have a list of practitioners, too, if you want a hands-on treatment. But, thank you so much for having me. You're lovely, and your energy is beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you.
I will say you're very easy to work with, because, the work can just get done because you're so open, and so it's lovely to be here.
Well, I'm doing what I love to do, just like you are. I mean, I was
don't work a day in your life.
You don't work a day in your life. I mean, I think my first session with you, you said, you know what? I don't work.
I get to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm always, telling people to quit their jobs. So I'll end on that note. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
The Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob podcast with Paula Swope.